Hello.
We're all the same volume.
level.
Yeah, weird.
But
No,
you're
yeah.
Now you
you're
get
good.
me now.
You're good. Yeah, you're good now.
You're on your own.
You're good now.
Just talk
Yeah.
loud.
Yep. Okay.
So maybe one of the microphones will pick it up.
Yep. Hello. now you can hear me. Better?
Yeah, I can hear
We'll
you now.
use
I gotta be like
subtitles for
yelling.
you when you speak.
I gotta be like yelling.
You'll be going like this,
Hello.
and then we'll just write what you said. You get the
Hello. Yeah. Okay.
subtitles,
Okay.
like the old Godzilla movies or something.
Welcome to episode 15 of the 5-Star Podcast, where we talk about everything Toronto real estate. Today's topic is actually home inspection. And I just want to point out that as realtors, we're not experts at this field, but luckily we do have an expert here today.
Oh,
Welcome.
very loosely.
Welcome, Brent.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Why don't you do a quick introduction?
Oh, sure thing, man. I'm a home inspector, obviously. That's why I'm in here. My name is Brent. I represent Classic Home Inspections. That's my own company. I've been doing it for many, many years. I don't want to say how many years, but it's been a long time.
like 50.
Yeah. I don't want it in a whole land. Like 3 years, 4 years. No, a long time. Have a lot of fun at it. It's a great industry. Real estate's very good to me. So
Richard sent a YouTube link of you were featured in a TLC show, Till Death Do Us Part. That was awesome.
I'm thinking TLC. We're going back to Creep, but yeah, I don't know if I was featured. I was in it. I used to be on HGTV, doing CBC, a lot of stuff. It was cool, a lot of fun.
Yeah, how many episodes did you do there? Like 2 or 3?
For HGTV,
yeah.
I don't know. It was on a season, so
Oh, it's great.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
You did a whole season?
A whole season.
Oh, shit. That's crazy.
Well, I wasn't featured the entire season.
But no, you're the
Well,
home
you were-
inspector
you
for
were
the whole
the
season.
I'd be sitting on a plane down south somewhere if I was.
Instead, you're here.
Still doing home inspections, breathing in asbestos, and testing people's toilets that don't work.
There you go.
But you got to bring in the expert, right?
Yeah, right. The resident home inspector. Right?
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, your toilet didn't flush. Thanks for letting me know.
Check the plumbing.
So where, Brent, where do you service? What are your regions? that you-
Everywhere. I used to, once upon a time, you kept so busy. Home inspector kept so busy. They could really just handle a territory and you were fine. You could run a business, no problem. But now it seems with, the population of Toronto, everyone's either leaving Toronto or they just simply can't afford within the GTA. So they're moving out to the outskirts, like the Londons of the world, Niagara Falls of the world, the Barries of the world, right? Not that it's any cheaper, but that's where people seem to move.
Yeah.
Places like Hamilton and that are just too expensive, right? So you're a young couple. Where are you moving, right? You need money.
So you're finding you're traveling further and further out. of the city.
Absolutely. Yeah. To answer your question, yeah. I'm traveling pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
If I'm working for an investor or something, I've gone to Sudbury, Kingston, Windsor, reluctantly, but you go.
But then at the same time, I think like the inventory for high rise condos, they're increasing. Like they're catching up to the low rise, and maybe sometimes the inspectors they don't need to inspect like a condo. Like I mean, you need to, but
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
they just
You're not,
opt-
no, and to be, truth be told, you're not doing as many condos as you are
That's what I mean.
as a residential home or commercial property, quite frankly. But yeah.
But Brent, when the market's really hot, I mean, personally, we've all seen it too, that some of our clients go in with a clean offer, no inspection.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming when the market's hot, you're not as busy.
I'm not busy. That's right.
Right.
When the market cools down, all of
Yeah.
a sudden there's not enough hours in the days for a home inspector to work. So that's the way it works, up
But,
and down.
Yeah, we always recommend it though. It's always a good thing to do at home inspection, regardless.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like you have to take it out of the offer, don't you? Isn't it like every time you
do.
prepare an
You
offer,
do.
it's a home inspection clause is there, but you have to take it out and get your client to agree to it.
You have to remove it and waive it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
even in a hot market, some buyers still would want a pre-listing home inspection, right? And
I do those all the time. Yeah, many home inspectors do. As a matter of fact, that would make up in a hot market rather. That's making up 90% of your business.
Right.
that's right, because
That's what you're
you
doing.
want that condition waived.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think the realtors appreciate it when there's a proper home inspection done for the pre-listing and all that stuff. It just makes everyone's lives easier.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, when we're in the course, the actual real estate course, we were told that like if you are representing the buyer, right,
Yeah.
your report would be very biased towards the buyer. If you're
Right. Yeah. You
doing it
don't
for the
you
seller,
don't, yeah.
right?
Exactly.
You're very
Don't
biased
rely on
towards
it.
the seller.
Don't rely on the seller's report.
Does that happen, or is that more?
That's a tough question to answer. Oh, well, it isn't. It isn't.
Okay.
Many home inspectors like myself, just it's like an umpire at a baseball game. They're going to call it the way they see it. And if you don't like the answer, so be it. I don't care. Right?
Right.
If you got a flooding basement, you have a flooding basement. I don't care. Like, deal with it then. If you don't want me to tell the seller, the potential buyers, then deal with it. I'm putting it in. I just don't care. Like, that's the way it works. And I think most people will respect that. But you do get, absolutely, you get whoever who don't really like that answer and like, okay, then throw the report out. Let the buyers bring in their inspectors. What do you want from me? No,
it's true.
No, it's exactly what the thing. That's what we're asking.
And of course, I've seen large scale companies say, well, the house may or may not have old knob and tube wiring in it. People don't hire me to tell me if it may or may not. People hire a home inspector to tell you, does the home have knob and tube wiring in it? Yes or no. And that's what we have to find.
Yeah, it's pretty binary. It's either
absolutely.
You can't be, half pregnant. Like, I'm a little
hopefully
pregnant.
I'm not any pregnant.
I'm a little. It's either there or not.
I got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah. So what are some of the limitations that a home inspector can and cannot do when you enter a house? You can't obviously break through walls.
You're right there. I mean, with the tools that we're offered in this day and age, though, we have some very effective tools that can really help us. At the end of the day, though, you're right. I can't take a hammer to the wall and break it down to prove a point. Or to show something, or whatever the case would be. It just comes with experience. Whether you think of you have suspect, like what I mean. You have reason to believe that there's
probability, high probability, right? Like
exactly. So I was in a house yesterday. You could tell. We could all tell. Even the buyers, the agent, and I was representing the buyer. We could tell that there was leaks in the basement. So I lifted carpet, even though there was nothing there that said there's a water leak. We all suspected it. And I did what I had to do to prove to the buyer, yes, you're getting leaks in this basement. And I did it, and I proved it. Was I supposed to lift carpet? No, I wasn't. But I wasn't going to walk away where the buyer does get the home, moves in 3 months later, they're getting flooded out on something that maybe I should have picked up, right? But there's also moisture. Like I said, there are tools that we have that help us.
Okay.
Nice.
But I've seen home inspectors show up with a flashlight and nothing else. I'm like, well, that's not a home inspector. That's just some hack. You know what I mean?
It's like a drive-by. Drive-by appraisal.
It is.
Oh, the house is there.
And then like, hey, knock yourself out. If that's the guy you want as your home inspector, knock yourself out.
You get what you pay for.
In that case, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Do the buyers follow you around? Like when you're doing the...
Yeah, do you even like that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Sometimes I'm like, guys, go sit on a couch. I'm going to go look at the house and I'll see you in a couple hours. I've done that. In other cases, I'm like, you get a couple and they're super cool, whatever. And like, you know what? Follow me around because I'm going to show you everything. And I'm going to show you what I do.
They're right over your shoulder.
And that's cool too. I get it. You've got people spending a lot of money in a home. They want to know what they're buying. And I respect that. But then you get people who come in who, just like you guys, they know more about your job than you do. Okay, good. It's like, well, why did you even hire me? You know what I mean? If you understand real estate better than a realtor, then why is the realtor here with you? You're telling them what to do? No, because it's a personality thing, right?
Oh, right.
You get that all the time. Your industry, my industry. It's every industry, right?
And they argue. They're like, no, I don't think that's...
Well, they're preaching modern day codes in a house built in 1920. Really? The conversation's over.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting my time talking modern day codes with stuff that I'm looking at was built in 1920. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? I don't. It's like it's a cue. You know when to enter a conversation and when not to.
Totally. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool, buddy. If that's what you want to believe that, then it's all yours.
Well, it is what it is. It's not changing, right? You're just telling them what's
absolutely
what you see.
You do it in a very gentle way, absolutely.
Right.
But at that point in time, just kind of do your own thing and stay within earshot type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
What you tell people.
Because with home inspection, like you can make recommendations after. There's no guarantee that whether it's up to code or if it's efficient, there's no guarantee for that. So it's up to you.
It is also just subjective. How efficient is the home?
Exactly, and it's also their preference. What if the buyer, they're cool with this?
Absolutely. You can give them some recommendations on how to make it more heating efficient, friendly, and all that stuff. But again, a house built in 1965 is not heating friendly.
Exactly.
Unless you're prepared to open up walls, put more insulation and change windows, this, that, spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Like century homes.
It's just not going to meet a modern day, a house. A modern day home will beat it all day long for efficiency.
Yeah.
Well, just like a car.
Yeah.
There's good and bad to both. Both sides have better qualities than the other. And the standard's a little different today, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah. For some of our listeners, some of them have never done home inspections before, right? Could you maybe give them a bit of an idea of what are the biggest things that they should look for when they are looking at homes, or what do you generally look for?
Absolutely, look for obvious things. When you go into a basement, if I have one more person call me up and said, we go down the stairs to the basement and there's this unusual smell, and I'm like, well, describe the smell. Well, it smells mildewy and moldy. Like, you got leaks. That's the way it is. If it's a musty smelling basement, don't hire me. And you don't want that, don't hire me.
Right.
Because you've got a leaky basement. It's just, where's the leak coming in and how much of a leak do you have? That's all that is. Yeah. It's really just using some common sense. I'll tell people, just look around, see if they're trying to hide anything. Do you have to pull out couches and stuff? No, but just look to see if there's leaks, because that's a biggie, right?
You can't get rid of that smell with the candles.
No, they'll load it up in Febreze, right? You've got the dehumidifier going, you got windows open. Yeah. And then, of course, they'll just say, oh, it was the cat litter box we used to have. And I'm looking for cat hair, and there's no cat hair. Where's your cat?
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen doing
I don't
inspection?
know. There's been lots, and I don't even remember them all.
Give us one.
Crazy stuff.
Craziest thing you've ever seen doing a home inspection.
Any dead bodies?
That's a different
I'll keep it clean, okay? But we'll know the road I'm going down. I remember doing a house very early in my career. Once upon a time, I guess pre-internet, people bought dirty magazines, men.
Okay.
And cool.
Right on.
But this gentleman who had a nice little bungalow north of Toronto had taken those dirty magazines and cut out the pictures and created a wallpaper collage with all these pictures.
Oh, wait, I thought you said you're keeping it clean. What's going on?
I'm doing the best I can to keep it clean.
Okay, continue.
So, no, without getting into detail, there's no graphics here. I'm keeping it at 13, don't worry. Just a lot of interesting pictures were up on the wall that he had created this wallpaper collage with these magazines.
Nice.
Yeah, well, that's right. So, wow, this is an awkward home inspection. And such an absolute sweetheart of a young couple, probably new to Canada, had a young family. And I'm like, would the realtor not have said, let's get some black paint or something to cover this all up? The whole house was that way.
Maybe it was a selling feature.
Selling feature.
I don't know.
Feature. We call it a feature wall. There we go.
I wasn't very good at cutting things out. But that made it interesting. It was well north of Highway 7. Someone had like a cornfield in their basement.
A cornfield?
Yeah, they had like a little cornfield. So the basement, it wasn't a big house, but how much money's in corn? How much money are you saving by growing your own corn?
They're like 30 cents at No Frills.
I was going to say, I can get a dozen fresh off a truck for $5 or something. But north of 7,
growing his own corn.
And it was corn. It was nothing else. It was corn. I'm like, wow. I wasn't sure if I was impressed or the concerned amount of damage you're doing to the home.
That makes me think like, so they built it into the basement, you said, right?
It was in the basement, yeah.
Right. So back in the day when people had grow-up homes, right? How would you tell if it's a grow-up home or not?
Usually due to ventilation. It was two things, electrical and ventilation. If you saw an unusual amount of electrical, whether it be present or you could tell that there was just a bunch of electrical in the house, that was typically a tip-off.
Okay.
Number two is the way they vented it all. But then they got very crafty. They wound up venting into the plumbing, which made it difficult. But usually you'd see a bunch of vents going up into the attic. And of course the attic would just be jet black from mold.
Right.
It was pretty obvious, to be honest with you. It really wasn't too it was the amount of mold you'd see in the house too. Unusual.
Right.
I think for some time after the residential phase, some of those operations went to like commercial and industrial.
And they went out of town.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
There's less eyes, less inspectors.
Absolutely. Why? Absolutely. Why would I have it in my garage when something I can go north of Coburg where no one's going to see me or something? You know what I mean? Yeah. One of those type of places. Yeah. You used to see them. You'd come across them. They weren't that common, but you would see them from time to time. Like a person passing away in the house.
Right.
I hate to tell people, most Toronto homes have had someone pass away in their home.
Course.
It's life.
Yeah.
No one had money for funeral homes and stuff.
Yeah.
The
People,
70s.
People gotta die somewhere. They don't die on the
Absolutely,
street.
man. Well, I hope not.
Natural death is okay. I mean, if
That's
it's a murder,
but
then
it's a wash.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to.
So, so recently there's been a lot of talks about, Kitech plumbing and, can you explain what Kitech plumbing is to our listeners?
It ultimately came down to a Kitech was a brand that created a plastic PEX style plumbing. The key with it, though, they put like an aluminum sheath, I guess for lack of a better term, within the plumbing, I guess to give it some rigid. I'm not too sure why it was put in, but anyways, it did. But the problem is that metal, with the expansion of the heat and the cold, was prone to bursting. A lot of people say it's in the connections. As a home inspector, I've never seen the problems with the connections. It's in the piping itself, so it just bursts and it splits everywhere. Again, because of that little metal sheath that's in the plumbing itself.
Right. How hard is it to replace it? Do you know?
Just no different than any other plumbing. It's you bring a plumber in and replace it. Yeah. It's really how much is there and how many walls is it behind and all that stuff, right?
It's mostly in condos.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah,
condos.
I've been quoted like 6,000 per washroom or 7,000 per washroom.
Ooh, 7,000 per washroom.
Yeah. So if it's 2-bedroom, then it's 14,000. So,
Ooh, I'll come do it for less.
2 bedrooms per washroom.
I'll do it for 12. I'm kidding. That's pretty pricey, I'll be honest with you. But
I'm not sure
in all
if
fairness
it's
to the plumber, I didn't see it either. But
like, because in terms of house versus condo, because I know houses some of them have Kitech too. So I don't know if the work involved is similar to that or not. But it's
the houses that I've seen are typically in like in the teardowns, the rebuilds.
Yeah.
Unless you get into like a Cambridge that had a big housing boom for 10 years of the early 2000s, you might see it in a town like that. But in Toronto, you're right. To me, it's all sitting in these stacked townhomes and in the condominiums, the Sudbury streets of the world. You know what I mean? The Liberty Villages of the world.
Yes.
Where a lot of that was built. That's where I personally see a lot of.
Yeah, and Richards area too, in North York, a lot of the condos there have Kitech plumbing.
Oh, up Yonge Street there, yeah.
Yonge Street, yeah. Yonge and Shepherd.
I don't know if they still do, but I know there was a few that up until recently had it.
Yeah, I mean, ever since still, like a lot of them still have it. They haven't
done
fixed
anything about it.
No, nothing there.
Yeah, don't quote me on here. I've always understood it's from 1995 to 2007. That's kind of when it was mostly used.
Yeah, so the newer ones won't have Kitech.
Yeah, if it's the side of 2008, you shouldn't see it.
But it's almost kind of normal now in North York. Like when you go see a condo and it's Kitech, it's like, oh, okay, that's
it's there.
pretty common.
Yeah, it's there.
So I wouldn't say it's a big problem.
I mean,
though.
it's not a big problem. There's still, like, to a buyer, there's an extra cost to it.
Yeah.
Because they have to fix it.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, they're.
Oh, sure. You do a condominium, and absolutely. All of a sudden, you got a
14,000 for 2 washrooms.
14 for 2 washrooms. My God.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Out of
That's like
pocket.
an
Out of
added
pocket.
expense, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or
And they didn't expect that, right? You're sending me to a condo. There should be lickety split, easy peasy. And now suddenly you're telling them, no, you got Kitech, and you're not going to get insurance and all that stuff. So, not a lot of fun, but it is what it is.
Is there an easy way to tell if it's Kitech? Like you open it, there's like a label or something?
Yeah, there's it's in big letters actually, in a big font. It says the word Kitech. It's like aluminum wiring. I'll walk up to an electrical panel, like, oh, you got aluminum in here, and they're like, how do you know that? Because it says the word aluminum right there. I don't even have to open up the panel. It says right on it, aluminum. Same with Kitech. You won't miss it. Typically go under the kitchen sink where you got a longer run, as opposed to a bathroom vanity. You're not going to typically see it as much because there's just a short piece of plumbing showing. But typically go under a kitchen sink.
Okay.
If you can't find the word Kitech, if you happen to have like your phone light on or something, take it and put it to the plumbing.
Yeah.
And just like when you were a kid and you took a flashlight and you put it through your thumb and you can see like right through it, that would mean there's no metal sheath in there, right? Because it's going right through the plastic plumbing.
Yeah.
But if you can't see it, again, that would be an indicator that, oh, we've got a metal sheath because it's stopping the light from kind of bleeding through that plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
Good tip.
Sometimes I'll just bend the plumbing because if it doesn't have that metal in it, it's like this. It's like a piece of spaghetti.
Yeah.
But if it's got the aluminum in it, it's tougher. It's almost
really
like a
rigid.
bar.
Yeah,
very
yeah.
rigid. So those are. But it will usually say Kitech, and you have to trip over it not to see it. it's pretty easy to see.
The other thing that a lot of people have stigmas around is asbestos.
Yeah.
Can you?
Those are the same people that go out and crush a pack of cigarettes while I'm about to tell them.
It's true.
They showed up with McDonald's and now we're crushing a package of cigarettes.
So there's still a lot of homes today.
Oh, my house is loaded in it. Absolutely. There's a lot of things to worry about in this world. You know what? If you want to worry about asbestos, knock yourself out. Really, in modern day and age, if you're a contractor doing demolition and stuff, you would have to worry about it. If it's sitting in those plastic vinyl tiles, if it's sitting on your ductwork, it's really not doing anything to anyone.
Okay.
If it's undisturbed
Completely.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
not-
And you
it's
know
not
what?
going
I could
anywhere.
stand there until I turn blue. But some people just, you know what? They get it in their heads. I'm like, okay, guys, you know something. Now, if I see it if you're in an older home where there's a boiler system, you will see it on the rad lines, you know, the plumbing lines that goes from the boiler to the individual. You'll see that. And I'm like, guys, you know, at least cover it up. Right. But yeah, it's a judgment. It really comes down to what they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
To me, there's other things to worry about. There's a lot of things to worry about in a house, you know, having electrical outlets by your house, having one of those smart meters zapping everyone inside the home. There's other things to worry about, the Wi-Fi, you know what I mean? Like, where's it end?
Right.
But providing you're not digesting the asbestos, it's like,
Right. Well, you know, I also had several deals fall through because the actual condo would have asbestos because it's whatever, like built pre 1980.
Absolutely. Well, what's comical is, you know, I go to my kid's school and there's still asbestos all in the gymnasium. They're all running around playing on it, having fun. And I'm like, does no one know that these are asbestos tiles these kids are all playing on?
Yeah.
If I was to go into someone's house and see it was asbestos tiles, everyone would be up in arms.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would kill the deal. Everyone would be up in arms. Brent, how could you let us walk on this asbestos tile?
I mean, the whole stigma around asbestos is really about it being cancerous, right?
Respiratory, yeah. And
Respiratory cancer.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, you're living in Toronto with a bunch of smog too, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's you mentioned something about them having cigarettes. So it's almost like, you know, if somebody was to be, you know, working with asbestos all day long,
they would be typically, if they weren't,
they're the ones that are higher
protected
risk
properly. Yeah, they would run, absolutely would, because they're down, they're
but
breaking up walls.
if they're just living in a house on a day to day and they're not really,
if you're in Toronto,
disturbed.
if you're living in Toronto, very good chance you have asbestos in that home. If it's the side of if it's pre 1980. Very good chance.
Even aside from homes, I'm willing to bet that a lot of offices, you know,
Commercial buildings, absolutely.
the drop ceilings, that's all made with asbestos.
It is, yeah. It would be the long term. If there was some asbestos sitting right here, it's not going to do anything to anyone. Now, if it was windy in here and we kept coming back in here and we spend 8 hours a day, sure, after a while it's going to catch up to you.
So when we say asbestos, is it almost like a fibrous
Exactly what it is.
glass?
Yeah, it's the fibers. And you have to, again, if it's just like you said earlier, if it was sitting right there, it's not doing anything to anyone.
Right.
If it's blowing on you and you're constantly breathing it in,
Yeah, and it has
over
to be,
time,
but
absolutely.
it also has to be fibrous. It has to be broken down.
I agree
for you to
completely.
inhale it.
I agree. But then again, we use pink fiberglass.
Yeah, I heard
Insulation.
fiberglass is just as bad.
Like your lungs can't get rid of that, man. That's
Yeah.
spun glass.
Yeah.
Like, is that any better? You
Yeah,
know what I
the
mean?
pink stuff we used to play with kids.
Sure.
You're like, oh, look at this.
Yeah,
Looks like cotton candy.
Absolutely. It makes
When
you itchy and
you're a
stuff.
kid, all you see is like
your
fluffy.
your lungs cannot get rid of that either.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
spun
Talking
glass
about like
that's
the
sitting there.
insulation.
You know,
But it's
Unfinished basements,
look,
man. I mean,
when you're downtown and they're cutting curbs with those the saws. Everyone's standing there waiting for the bus, is breathing in concrete dust.
That's true.
You think you can get rid of that? Your lungs can't take that stuff, man. So my point is asbestos good for you? No, it's not. But it's the long term effect. It's not something that's immediate. Like I'll leave it at this. It's the trans fat in foods. Trans fat's not good for you. But where do we begin? In food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, it's there's so many things in the house that are not good for you. You know.
Yeah. Because I know in China, Asia, like around the world,
They're using
heavily using
Yeah.
asbestos.
I'm not sure if they still use asbestos in the brakes or not. I could be wrong. But again, a mechanic who's changing brakes consistently, or up until recently, I don't know when we stopped using asbestos in brakes, but same thing. You know, you're at the subway station, and when when the subways are coming in, they apply the brakes, and everyone's standing at the yellow line. Well, all that dust is blowing on you from the brakes, right? So
Interesting. Actually, I never realized that there's that much asbestos around.
it's a great insulator.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not very good.
So really,
for you,
like to our listeners, they shouldn't be really too concerned with it unless they're working on it.
honestly,
Working
unless-
with it like on a day to day, like
again,
and
if you're
constantly.
God, I think I'm downplaying this too much. If you were going to take out a wall in an older home,
Mhm.
get a person to come in, take some core samples, and just see how much asbestos is in the wall. If it is indeed in the wall, good chance it would be. But just before you start tearing down the wall yourself, just get it tested. Again, the only time, like I said, not to keep repeating myself, is when you do see, like in an older Toronto home, you got a boiler and you see it's very loose on those rad lines. Then I'm like, guys, you know what? Think about getting it removed, or at very least,
you're
cover it
talking
up.
about insulation?
Yeah, it looks like
The wrapping?
a grayish wrap, if you will. But as a home inspector, like you're opening up a can of worms. When does it end?
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, don't buy an older home. You know, 80% of Toronto has old homes.
It's true.
Or don't disturb it. Don't break it down.
Exactly. Just leave it be. Even if it's a painted wall, it's fine.
It's true. Okay. No, that's good. That's good.
You'll see it up in the attic, and I'll tell people good chance, you may want to get it removed and replaced. But again, where does it end?
Right. No, it's just, it's honestly for the listeners to allow them to get educated on how harmful it is.
I would be more concerned about mold.
Right.
Because mold will consistently release spores, which are just simply not good for some people. I'm fine. I can stick my head into a bucket of mold and nothing will happen, but you guys may react differently. So anytime you see mold, you have to call it out without downplaying it.
And how would you fix mold?
Well, you find the source, you find out B, if it's active or not.
Yeah.
And then C, you got to remediate it, or it depends how much. If there's not much, then could just be some housekeeping mold, as we call it, right on a window in the bathrooms. Most
those are
bathrooms
normal. Yeah. They're like little spots of mold. Those are fine.
You're guaranteed to find that.
Yeah.
That's just housekeeping mold. But if you see like a problem up in the attic or in a basement or something, it's remediation or removal, whatever.
Yeah. You need an expert to take care of that stuff.
Yeah. Typically, yeah.
Okay.
So what are the biggest problems you've seen in home inspections? Yeah.
The biggest problem would be a house with structural.
Structural.
Yeah. You won't come across them often, but you will see them.
Okay.
And I hate to say this, typically it's a deal buster. I can think of, if I was to think of 10 homes off the spot that had structural issues over the career of doing this, only one is a very nice house out in Pickering. It has structural issues, but he went with it. And I said, buddy, it's $80,000 aside to tie the home back in. He loved the home.
Wow.
Oh God, I'm going back 12 years at least. He loved the home. I was like, that's cool.
How bad was the structural? Was it falling down?
The back of the house was basically kicking out.
Wow.
Oh.
From the footing, basement.
No, it was on
the
a bit of a,
foundation?
a ravine. Yes, it was on a bit of a, and who knows the soil they used at the time. So it was
Wow.
Yeah, it was kicking out.
Well, you see the crack lines all the way up to the house, right? If it's brick.
You did. Yeah, you need to be a home inspector. Quite frankly, you'd actually see the house kind of kicking out. But he was like, "How much is that going to cost me per side?" And I said, "It's 80 G's at the time. 80 G's per side." He loved the home, and he said, "Let's do it." Now it turns out he's ahead of the game, because if he still owns that home 12 years later, he's doing pretty good. It was a gorgeous home.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
So
how does one become a home inspector to begin with?
Oh God, I really wish you hadn't asked that question. Print off some flyers and deliver them.
Self-proclaimed.
You're a qualified home inspector.
Write it on a card.
Really wish you hadn't brought that question up. I was kind of avoiding that one.
Okay, well, we don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I have a very embarrassing industry, and that is where you're unregulated, meaning any one of these 5 people sitting at this table can become a home inspector. Very embarrassing, but true.
But it comes down to
enough
experience.
said. Okay, no.
But it comes down to experience.
But listen,
Let's talk about asbestos again.
Clearly, you have to have some working background knowledge of construction, of course.
Typically, you would. Yeah, you'd have some
right?
type of an engineering background, some type of.
I've heard
it's going to
that,
drive you to that industry. Yeah.
I've heard some electrical engineers become home inspectors.
Yes.
Some plumbers become home inspectors.
God, I hate to say this, it's almost an industry that's not taken seriously. I'll just be honest with you. It's almost a half-assed industry. No one takes it seriously. The government does not take it seriously. We've never been regulated. There's no licensing. I'm being honest. I'm sure there's people listening to this, home inspectors, they're listening and they're cringing. They're like, I'm giving away the dark, dirty secrets of this industry. It's no secret. It's a pathetic industry. Yeah. It really is.
Keep it real.
When you're looking for a home inspector, you make sure you do lots of homework, make sure you get some references. And here's some positive feedback.
Brent's been around for many years. He's in this for a while. He's got a lot of experience.
No, he said 3 years.
Look at the gray in his beard. Yeah.
He said 3 or 4 years.
Well, I just graduated school in 2015, so then there was COVID. Yeah, so yeah.
Experience and reputation goes a long way in your industry, right? So
it is.
Plus, you've been the residence home inspector for HGTV or whatever.
That's so right. Until things went downhill. Yeah.
He's got his experience.
That's credibility right there.
That's true, man.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
You'll be honest. Those shows are scripted, right? It's got to be scripted.
Oh God!
I refuse to believe that some people are that
reality. I'm not
money.
going to say they are, but reality TV is not reality TV. No,
yeah,
no, it's reality. Just make sure you read the teleprompter.
It's a real teleprompter.
Or the cue cards.
They have to make it
yeah.
exciting. They have to have a storyline.
Of course, yeah, really. I mean,
It's a production. It's
Absolutely, it is.
But when you were on TV, you were not scripted though. You were just really
No,
inspecting
but
the
that's
house,
what
right?
he's saying. There's a teleprompter. I'm sure there are lines.
I don't know, man.
Just put it on the teleprompter. He'll say it.
Yeah.
To a degree.
To a degree.
They
Okay.
kind of set the stage, if you will, and you're kind of pushed into what you're saying.
So, what are the most common problems you generally see within homes?
Leaky basement, electrical issues, roof, old heating, cooling.
Okay.
That's what people want to know. I mean, there's always going to be squeaky floors. There's always going to be a door that doesn't quite close properly. There's always handrails missing. Who cares?
Right.
You're spending
No,
a
the-
ridiculous
the-
amount on the house.
Yeah,
Handrails
the
are really an
biggest,
issue.
the biggest costs are like
Yeah, they want to know the big
roofing,
ticket stuff. Yeah.
the roofing, the attic,
And that's why home inspector's there. We're not really there to tell you have squeaky floors, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You're going to have, I'll tell you have squeaky floors before I even get in the house. If squeaky floors are going to bother you, then don't buy a home. But it's the big ticket stuff.
Okay.
Structural would be hands down number one.
Wait, Brent, what's your pet peeve? Like the least favorite thing about your job, and maybe what's the dangerous part?
Oh, the worst thing is when people tell me, Brent, they pull me to the side, say, Brent, I'm paying too much for this house.
They ask you for a second
And they
opinion.
want to give me financial advice on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I'm like, that's not my job. Like I told you before this broadcast, guys, we're all paying too much for the home. I'm just here to tell you the condition of the home, but that's what many people will call me up and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm paying this for the house. I'm like, guys, those numbers mean nothing to me because I simply don't know your side of the job. I don't know. I don't know what the house goes for.
Yeah. They'll ask you if it's worth it or not.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they're pulling me to the side as a friend. It's like
Yeah.
I'm a bartender. People tell me stuff I don't need to know. You know what I mean? But you amuse them. Okay, cool. Like, all right, whatever. You know, kid likes picking fights at school. Like, okay, whatever. You know. But I'm not there to tell them. I would never bring up the cost of a home. It's just not my business, and nor could I. With my education in homes, I couldn't have a proper conversation by using numbers. So I can only tell you the price of a furnace. I can tell you the price of new windows. I can tell you the price of what it's going to cost to fix the leak. That's what I can tell you.
I wonder, it's so funny. For every dollar, every time you get that comment, you get $1.
Oh, yes, there's, well, I'd be retired.
Yeah.
No, it's very common though for a home inspector to be asked that question. And I just politely say, guys, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. The most dangerous thing about my job? Oh, God. I'd like to tell you it's the roof, but it's the rabid dog that they didn't bother to tell me. was in the house.
That'd be
How many times have you been mauled by a dog?
In the spring, I was bitten in the
I'm
throat by this
seriously,
big,
yeah.
nasty German Shepherd. But I'm a dog person. I love dogs. I understand dogs. I understand their mentality, right? They get excited. They don't want you in the house. It's a territory thing. And this one German Shepherd did jump up and bit me in the neck. And I was like,
dude.
yeah, I just walked away. I was bleeding and stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. Just give me a Band-Aid. But it was crazy. But yeah, it was the best. There was a lady. I was in Rexdale, as a matter of fact. And a lady.
Shout out to Rexdale.
Yes, cheer for Rexdale. And a lady did basically sicked her dog on me. You know, that turn, they just jump in the doors, get this guy. And I was like, whoa. And I ran up a tree. It was it was a Bouvier, no, a French Mastiff. It was this big black dog. It looked like a black bear running out of the house. And I jumped up in this tree. You've never seen a 40-year-old man scale a tree so fast in your life. And I said, what in God's name are you doing? She goes, who are you? I said, I'm the home inspector. I'm supposed to be here for 2:00, whatever the time was. And she goes, oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's what your response is? Oh, okay.
All right.
Your dog's about to put me in a hospital bed.
Let go of his neck.
Seriously.
Let go of his neck. Let's go.
It looks like a black bear. Like,
wow.
so yeah, it's and I love dogs. Don't get me wrong, but some people just don't, have respect for other people.
What would you say is changing with the way professionals do the home inspections these days with home inspectors? What, in terms of technology, in terms of your method, your process?
Well, I just
what's
hope they're doing a better
changing?
job in general. You can throw as much technology as you want. It just comes down to the morals of the home inspector. Is he going to do it as a contractor, as a person in general?
Right.
It just comes down to the morals and the ethics of how they run their operation. Right.
At least with drones, you don't have to climb up to the roof as much anymore.
That's
right.
right. The problem is though, the wind comes up and throws it into the neighbor's gutter. And now your $800 drone that you've owned for 3 months is now sitting in your neighbor's gutter and your ladder's not high enough to get to it. So,
Keep it real, Brent.
Is this
happened to you last week?
It sounds like
so let's just go in and ask the owner when they put the roof on. I'm not going to the store every 2 minutes and buying an $800 drone. The ones that you don't need a license for.
So we talked a lot about older homes. Do you do home inspections for brand new construction homes?
All the time.
All the time. Do you think it's worth it to do?
It depends. There's many a home an inspector has gone to, and it's minimal.
Yeah.
There's many a home I've gone to, including custom homes, that look like kids put it together.
Ooh.
So I don't know what to say. I'm not going to do a sales job and say, oh yeah, I got a new one I got a home inspection for your new home. Yes and no.
Depends on the builder, I guess.
It depends on the crew.
Oh, okay.
Right. Again, I've done custom homes.
Yeah.
So money means nothing. It just comes down to, were they in a good mood when they built the house or weren't they? Yeah, certain home builders have better reps than others, but I tell people, go live in the house for a while, see what you think. If you think you need a home inspector, bring him in and you'll know.
Yeah.
Big name home builders, they've built some stellar homes that I've gone through, and they've gone through not so stellar homes that I've done, right? New homes are more efficient. Going back to heating and cooling and stuff, they're more efficient.
By design also. Yeah.
We'll use a car as an analogy because everyone understands car. Yeah, the old cars, the metal on it was this thick, but you also went through a lot of gas because there was like driving around a tank, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the cars nowadays, you can get 600 kilometers on a car. Yeah, you know. So there's good and bad to both. You had, in all honesty though, you did have proper tradespeople at that time building homes.
They cared.
They cared, yeah. And now you just have tradespeople, and that's cool. You know, it's not their fault, but yeah, it's piecework, and they rush to do your home so they can get to the next home and get to the next home after that. So it's good. There's no one's better than the other. It's what suits you and what you want.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
We're coming up to the end. Do we have any final thoughts? I know, Richard, you were trying to say something earlier. Do you remember?
Oh, I do, but it was just really more or less because we see a lot of nicely renovated homes that you walk in and it's like beautifully like finished.
Lipstick.
Right. I was just gonna say, like, how is the structure? Like, how many times have you seen beautiful finished homes and like structurally it's like
That's
garbage?
50% of the time, sure.
Oh, dude, 50%.
At least.
So yeah, I mean,
For our first time home buyers out there and our listeners, what can they expect for cost? How much does a home inspection typically
It comes
cost?
down to the size of the home, basically.
And time.
$350 to $500, typically.
Not worth it for
It's worth
such
it.
a
I mean,
big
if you're-
investment.
if you're-
right?
Absolutely, because you find one simple thing and
Yeah.
that just paid for the home inspection, right? Like I've done a million homes where it's supposed to have a sump pump installed and there's no sump pump. So a new sump pump's $500. Right? There you go.
right.
You saved your $500 or whatever the case would be, $400,
So
whatever.
if you found something that is just like this, like hidden somewhere, and you're like, "Whoa, this is like
Absolutely.
a $6,000 cost," then you're like, "Okay, well,
An outlet that didn't work and a broken windowsill. Well, you've just paid for the, you know what I mean? There you go.
the ROI is there."
$350 to $500, a very small investment.
That's what I tell
Very,
people,
very
yeah.
small investment. So
If you're buying a $1.5 million home,
Seriously.
yeah.
what's $500?
Providing that home inspector's doing a good job, though. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot more in the end.
Cool. Thanks for the podcast. They're very informative, Brent.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Oh,
coming.
thanks, man.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's very funny.
I learned something, definitely.
Sorry for not being as pretty as the other guests. I'll be sure to comb my hair next time and brush my teeth.
You look fine. You look
He's gonna wear tighter t-shirts.
Scarborough the house. There you
Scarborough
go.
Red, baby.
There you go.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks so much for
Bye-bye.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.